All right. Hello, hello, Big Share. We're here today. We get to join you here from the Cube Land on the Big Share Live. Earlier today, if you're following us at Rooted, I was at Troy Farm walking through mud. So I do not look like my headshot because I was walking in Mud Girl today. So she's different. But I'm so excited. I'm Hedi. I'm the director at Badger Rock Neighborhood Center. That's one part of my job. The other part of my job is being the deputy director of Rooted, which is a nonprofit whose mission is rooted in food, land, and learning. And I work with a number of the beautiful people that are here with me today. And so I'm really excited to get to talk with everybody today about the food systems and the different ways that we approach the work in the food systems. And you'll see that it is as diverse as we all are. And so I'm really excited to hear more about that. So before we get started, I'd like to have everybody introduce themselves. And I guess I can throw out some names, and I'll do it by starting to my left, which on my screen is Tess.
Thanks. Hi, all. I'm Tess Romanski. I'm the Communications and Development Manager at FairShare CSA Coalition. FairShare is based in Madison, and we connect farmers and eaters through CSA, community-supported agriculture, serving primarily small-scale diversified vegetable farmers. And really excited to be here virtually with all of you today.
Awesome. And then next, Philip.
Hi, everybody. My name is Phil Kauth, Executive Director at REAP Food Group in Madison, Wisconsin. Been on the job for almost a year now, so it's been an amazing learning experience coming into Madison and learning what the food system is here. REAP has been around for 25 years now, and a lot of you may pick up the Farm Fresh Atlas, which lists a bunch of local farms and organizations and businesses that support those local farms and sustainable agriculture. We also have our Farm to School program and Farm to Communities program, and it all comes back to supporting local farms, connecting consumers and eaters to local farms and supporting them.
Awesome. Claire.
Hi, everyone. Claire Oleksiak, Executive Director of Sustain Dane. Our mission is to inspire, connect, and support people to accelerate equity and sustainable actions for community well-being. We have a number of programs, and some of them are in the food system space, really looking at that as a critical part of how we address holistic sustainability in the community. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Cooper.
Hey, good afternoon, all. This is literally day 2 for me at this desk in this position. So I'm really honored and happy to be here. I learned so much in the last 3 hours. But my name is Cooper Talbot. I'm agriculture lead for Urban Triage. And our mission is rooted in the belief of returning to the land to heal from our past. So through advocacy, transformative education, collaboration, and connecting to nature, we address the root of health disparities and inequalities in our communities. And again, I'm happy, honored, amazed, and proud to be a part of this great partnership here.
And Will Green.
Hi, everyone. Will Green, founder of Mentoring Positives. We're over in the Darbo-Worthington Park neighborhood, so one of Madison's low-income neighborhoods. And we mentor youth. So we mentor youth, elementary through high school, with a focus on their social and emotional well-being. And also, we run a social enterprise called Off the Block, Salsa and Pizza. So we have youth who produced salsa and pizza. And I'm sitting in our new space where the old Ella's Deli used to be. So we are now located in the Ella apartment in the lower part of that space. So we'll have some restaurant space that we'll have youth serving you up. So if you come by, definitely do that. And, you know, we do a lot of work with a lot of different organizations that is dedicated to food security in our neighborhoods. So glad to be here.
Great. Thank you, Will. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's just real quick define what the food system is. And I'll do that just by real quick telling you a little bit about Wikipedia says. We don't really care about Wikipedia, but for those of you that, just want a straightforward, it's the term that describes the interconnected systems and processes that influence nutrition, food, health, community development, and agriculture. So all of these things come together. That's our food system. But Philip said something that I thought was really important, and that was our food system. So our means it's local. So the food system, as we all saw during the pandemic, some things broke down. It was hard to get some things. I don't know if anybody's having problems still with eggs lately. I always paid $5 for eggs because I like good eggs. I would never pay $1 nothing for an egg. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. But anyway, so food systems are local, and the strength of it comes local. And so we have local people here who I think could speak about the local food system. And that's what I really want to hear more about. And so some of the questions, I don't want us to go through each one of these questions. What I'd like is as each of you talk, and you could talk when you're comfortable, is to talk about where does your organization fit into the food system? What problems your organization might be working to solve in the food system. And then if you also want to talk and speak, which I think is really important, about how marginalized communities are failed by the food system, because I do think that a lot of us working in the space are not doing that without thinking about that critical piece of the food system. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute. And if some of you would like to jump in, you can raise your hand and jump in. Or I'll pick someone.
I don't mind jumping in. So it is my second day. Might as well take initiative, right? So we're answering the question about where we fall in participating. Well, I mean, I think it probably is the same for all the organizations here speaking today. But for us, it's really critical to know where the problem is and listen, right? Especially listen to our young people, because those and our children who are the most disadvantaged, because they're growing and they're lacking the nutrition, they're lacking the accessibility to healthy foods, fruits, and things like that. And so it's really seeing where the change needs to happen. That's a big start, for us. And then us implementing our programming and our education on the land as well, right? So that we're able to move and like create a shift where Black people go from being recipients of services to individuals with agency, autonomy, and self-efficiency. And the motive is always empowerment and leadership. And that's how we, Urban Triage, and our agriculture department are really trying to make a big difference, get back to the land, take back our land, take back the history that we have of providing for ourselves. And even with the big share, it's incredible to have this big day of rallying for, support, monetary support, of course, as well as just all the buzz of all of us. Each and every one of us is out there being represented today, right? And in our efforts. And so just to know that, we almost have to get it ourselves, right? We can't wait for policies, petitions, politicians, what have you. We're out here getting it ourselves. And that's where the empowerment to me comes from, and where Urban Triage sits in, helping to shift this food system issue.
Thanks, Cooper. Anybody else want to add to that or share a little bit more about how you guys fit into the food system and your approach to the work?
Yeah, I can mention some things here. Like I said, I'm coming up on my year anniversary of executive director here. And so the first couple of months on the job, it was just like overwhelming to hear about all of the different organizations doing different pieces, but at the same time connected together. And I think it's really important for REAP, who's been around for 25 plus years, to bring our work into the community and to bring the community into our work. So how do we do that? We do it on multiple levels, connecting people to local food, educating youth. Last summer, we did a pilot program in a couple community centers on teams in the food system. And so we're looking to do that again. We're partnering with chefs who are cooking culturally relevant food and bringing them to the students and cooking alongside them, so they know what it feels like to cook food and also cook alongside chefs that look like them as well. So that's an important piece as well. And then supporting the farmers as well. So a big part of the food system is infrastructure. And the last couple of weeks alone, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of movement on infrastructure needs. You know, the public market is getting funded, but there's a lot of organizations that are looking to expand because there's such a high demand for more food in the area. So what can REAP do as an organization to help support that expansion and to really champion a lot of the infrastructure needs that are really needed in the area? So that's a big piece of what we're looking at the moment.
Thank you, Phil. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Well, go ahead, Tess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like what Cooper said about empowerment really resonates. Also, you know, FairShare, we have this dual support of farmers and eaters, and a lot of times those programs are very different. One of the ways in which we bring farmers and eaters together is through the Partner Shares program, which is a food assistance program. And so thinking about the program as a way to support and connect farmers and eaters, you know, kind of a stepping stone to food security, where we provide assistance and support, and then we try and get out of the way as much as possible. So it really is facilitating direct connections between the farmers and the people they're feeding. And thinking about it in terms of how can we empower people to make the food choices they want, while at the same time allowing farmers to feed their communities while being paid for the food they're growing. So, you know, providing a sliding scale of assistance where participants can kind of pick the level of assistance they need, and then also having farmers make a living wage, because, you know, it's all of our farmers feel really passionately about food access, but also farming is hard and there's very little profit that goes into it. So thinking of our role as a facilitator and a connection, and then trying to get out of the way as much as possible to have that human farmer and eater connection, you know, taking away some of the administrative burden and empowering farmers to feed their communities and communities to support their local farmers.
Awesome. Hey, Will, I know the hook is the key for you guys over there at Mentoring Positives. What's the hook? How did you get kids hooked into food?
Man, I'll tell you this, guys. I was a part of the sustainability leadership program at Edgewood, and I learned about urban ag and Will Allen down in Milwaukee. And so I had this basketball group, and a white activist came through and said, "Hey, Will, we got to get the kids doing something." I was like, "We do." He's like, "Let's make salsa." I was like, "Let's make salsa." So next thing I know, Holy Cross Church gave us an acre of land, and I had the kids growing their own peppers and tomatoes, and we was in the Salvation Army creating a salsa. And so that's really what it is. You know, I'm a grassroots level type of guy, and so just teaching the kids about exposing them to different things. And that was something I had just been exposed to and they were exposed to. And it's funny too, because, you know, at that time we had some of the farmers was grabbing some of those vegetables right off the vine and chomping into it. And the kids didn't think that was okay. It's like, hold on, that's not cool. And so, you know, it's just teaching them those type of things. And, you know, we do a lot of work with the Darbo Food Pantry, and REAP has been over in the neighborhood, and River Food Pantry with their with their vans. So, it's just exposing neighborhoods. I'm in a unique situation because I'm in a low income neighborhood. I'm in the heart of that. We do the work in the heart of that neighborhood. And so food insecurity is definitely a big issue in that community. And as long as we're making the salsa and pizza here, they're producing that. They know where it comes from. You know exactly what goes into our products. You can read everything that's in our products. It's not a word that you don't know. I think that's important, and the kids can definitely benefit from that.
So Will mentioned the sustainability program that he was in. So I'm thinking sustainability is like the gateway drug into food systems, because I remember before I even thought I was in food systems, we were doing a lot of work with Sustain Dane over at the Urban League when we created some outdoor events. This is a while ago. So I think that a lot of people who might be wondering, like, how do I get into it, probably have found some way through sustainability efforts first. So Claire, talk to us a little bit about what you guys are doing over at Sustain Dane.
Yeah, yes to everything everyone said, right? The empowerment, the local sourcing, knowing where your food is, a healthy part, and that does all come together for sustainability. Project Drawdown is this resource that kind of has put together kind of all of the different studies that happen about how do we move forward to address climate change. And sustainable food choices is the most impactful area to work on. And that's just, like you said, Hedi, kind of that an entrance that once people kind of start to realize of the ability that they have to take action and to be a part of sustainability. I think there's a lot of different branches that come off of that. Focus on locally in Madison. Our food waste goes to the landfill. It's about 20% of our landfill. It makes up the largest part of our landfill, and our landfill has to expand because it's full right now. So, what are we going to do as a community, not just farm to table, but table back to the farm? How can soil be regenerated so that there can be more growing opportunities locally, right? How can we reduce those emissions from the food turning into methane in the landfill? And then with schools, we're also doing some work with helping kids look at the food that's being going into the trash, the food that's not being eaten, and thinking about all that food. How do we change it so that the kids want to be eating that food and it's food that they want to have and it's going into them instead of just through the process, of being farmed to the trash. So I think probably the last thing I'd say is I mentioned holistic sustainability, and that's this intersection of environmental health, community well-being, and a just economy. And food systems sits right in the center of that. Because if you have people that are hungry, there's not community well-being. Like, we can't get to a sustainable community. And if we have unjust practices in farms, we don't have a just economy. So it is really one of those issues that is really important when you think about sustainability overall.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. I'll just say real quick, rooted, as I said earlier, our mission is collaborations that are rooted in food, land, and learning. So I'm here at Badger Rock today. I was at Troy Farm earlier. So we have two physical locations in addition to our youth farm, Goodman Youth Farm. That's over by Kennedy Elementary School, where the Grow Academy is located. So we have that physical space, but we also have what we call networks. And so if you're a community gardener, you've probably been touched by the work that we do through the Gardens Network. If you're an educator, through our Farm to ECE and Wisconsin School Garden Network work. And so, there's different ways that we approach that work. Youth education is central to that, but just as important as youth education is, family and youth education is critical. That this is a family effort. So I just wanted to mention that. So we're going to transition and I want to preface that by saying we're going to talk about food insecurity. But before we talk about food insecurity, I want to talk about something called food justice, because I think before we talk about food insecurity, which is, people who may not have access to food, food justice is just as important. And that's a movement that works to ensure universal access to nutritious, affordable, and this is an important part, culturally appropriate food for all. while advocating for the well-being and safety of those involved in the food production system. So I say that because I know that a lot of food went to waste during the pandemic. People were giving all this food away, but they weren't thinking about who they were giving food to. So I heard stories about, garbage cans that, they'd give out food in a community, and the people who gave it would walk by the garbage can later and see all this food, in the trash can. Well, why? Didn't they want the food? Weren't they thankful? Well, no, maybe they don't eat that food. um, and so I know we worked with REAP over the summer, and we had that summer, the first summer of the pandemic, and we had staff that were here through the programming that REAP was doing to make sure that people in the Latinx community were getting food that was culturally appropriate for them. And I think that other efforts have come up. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's important that we think about the food justice aspect as much as we think about food insecurity, because we can't do one without the other. And so on that note, I just want to look at the questions that we have here real quick. So I guess I'll let you guys, I don't want to answer this for you, and how you want to answer that is up to you. But, we're looking at what is food insecurity and what does it look like in your community? And then what are some of the things that you think about when you're working with BIPOC community members, specifically in food system work? And then how are the organizations that you're working with responding to food insecurity in your community? So those are a lot of questions. You don't have to answer any one or in a particular order, but just in general around that topic.
In the community where I live and also and work, the food insecurity looks a lot like, despair, and it's almost paralyzing for some, because most of the people in the community who are experiencing this insecurity usually will they're not necessarily thinking of a solution, but they'll take what's there, because obviously, yeah, we may not have fresh produce, but boy, do we have a drive-through right there. You know what I mean? And so it's almost just going with what's there and almost thinking that that's okay, and that's the sustainability that's available to us, right? And uh, and I mean, that's not going to operate so well for long, as we see with our elders and their, they're just their state of health or lack thereof, good health, that we're just going to continue to see this cycle. And so that's really what food insecurity looks like in the community which I live, work, and where I grew up and everything. And I mean, our hope, of course, is that with all of us being able to provide, not just, I mean, again, just that shift, that education, that empowerment. And again, with Urban Triage, we like to bring them right to our field, where this will be our second season growing out in Verona at Farley Center in Verona. But we work with 20 families thus far, really getting them to turn their minds around and have more information. Where is this food coming from? How is all of this even rooted in our past, and how can we go back to it to live better, right? And take away the notion of like a post-traumatic slave syndrome. Like, let's like dive into that, and pull away from some of those things that really keep us still and not, growing. So, like, literally, seed in the ground and growing, as well as ourselves.
Thanks, Cooper. Anybody else?
Sure. REAP has been really involved with farm to school last 15 years, and that's where we kind of see the food insecurity happen a lot. A lot of kids, they go to school hungry, or they have access to what people call good, maybe not good food at schools, but it might be better than what they're getting at home. So the whole definition around good food and access to what people think is good food, it totally differs from everybody's perspective. And so what does food security look like, or access to just food? And we like to start in the schools. Let's have food available to kids in schools. And there's a lot of movement right now out there with healthy school meals for all, universal school meals, whatever you want to call it. It's a big issue at the moment that's up in the governor's budget. So it's work that REAP is championing and doing. And we want to have, if youth don't have access to food at home, let's have it in school so they're not hungry throughout the day as well. So that is a big issue that we're working on at the moment. And it goes back to having at least some local farms and some local produce in the schools for snack. We did a Harvest of the Month videos. They're on our YouTube channels, so schools can use those to show exactly where food comes from and who's growing the food and what farmers look like in the area. So that's kind of the issue that we're focusing on right there.
Thanks, Phil. Anybody else want to talk about that?
I can jump in.
Thanks, Blair.
So climate change is going to make it harder to grow food, right? More extreme weather. We don't have pollinators, all of that, which also, look down harder, more expensive to get food, all of those issues that we saw during the pandemic and are coming, amplified. So the work I think that is happening to localize and empower locally is critically important as a resilience measure to get us kind of ready to support our community here. With our work, when we received funding to start free food scrap pickups at farmers markets, we were really thoughtful about where that was going to be and what was going to happen with the food scraps. So we partnered with Neighborhood Food Solution and Robert Pierce's farm, and the South Madison Market is one of those sites. He's trying to regenerate the soil on his land. So we wanted to make sure that it was going back into a farm that was going to be making soil, that was going to be growing food, that was going to go back to the community at the farmer's market. I think, in all the partnerships, right? Just we co-created this. It was, what's going to work for him. He's part of the grant, paid for the time, and just kind of continuing to learn about how we collaborate together. So I think that's probably really important part for the work that we're doing. And then just overall knowing that, those that are most impacted by climate change will be those that have the least resources to begin with. So fitting that back into the sustainability puzzle about how important this is to address sustainability.
Thanks, Claire. Tess or Will?
Yeah, I can hop in. I think one of the things, like when you first start thinking about food insecurities, I think a lot of folks think, like, oh, you're below a certain income level and that's why you're food insecure. Or like that's that's kind of the threshold of food insecurity is income. And from what we found is there are so many compounding factors that play into food insecurity beside from just income. There's cost of living, housing, employment, temporary long-term disabilities, immigration status, also institutional racism. Like lots of things play into food insecurity. The last few years, COVID and now inflation and rising costs of goods. Each household experiences food insecurity differently. And so thinking through not necessarily making a program that's flexible. So like in terms of the PartnerShares program, we focus very intentionally on deep listening around community needs, transparency in our work, creating clear avenues for partners and participants both to provide feedback. So we're making sure that the solutions we're providing are what community needs, kind of going back to the culturally appropriate foods of like, is this actually what the community needs? Are we providing and responding to the needs of the community? And, having an openness to thinking through, is this the actual solution? In terms of the CSA model, there's a lot of inherent challenges in CSA in that it favors white middle-class consumers. And so thinking through and being aware, CSA is probably not the right fit for every community, every person, and just keeping that in mind as we're trying to work on food access programs. Like we have a solution that works for a lot of our participants. It won't work for everyone. And so how can we make it responsive and consistent and reliable while also filling the needs of our community.
Awesome. Thanks, Tess. Will, did you want to add anything?
I'll just say, again, just being from a low income neighborhood, it's like a food swamp, right? It's like no handy grocery store, lots of fast food, junk food, Walgreens. And so they just don't have access, right? And that can be as simple as, they was doing the development like right here at Union Corners in Darbo. It's like right up the block, right? It's like maybe a couple of miles, but people is like, oh, people will go there and do their grocery shopping, right? Like,
yeah,
that's unrealistic. And on top of that, it was organic, right? So that's another when it comes to organic and just the regular, people are going to go on the cheap side. So I think, we just got to think about that. I think when we say, for instance, I do a lot of work with Joe Mingo, who runs the Darbo pantry project, and when he brings different foods even in the neighborhood, like people don't even know what to do with it. So it's an education that needs to go around the food insecurity, and like Tess was saying, we got to think about CSA. Some things works for some people, but a lot of things is not going to work for everyone. And nobody is fit in one box, right? It's like different things for different venues in the different areas. So, and that's comes from an approach of really understanding your community and getting to know your residents and people and what their needs and wants are. And so I think we just need to do a better job of that. But we got a big job because, it's a system. Anything we are trying to do better in this community or make better is because of a system that's in place. And so that's oftentimes hard to take down or help a system when it's kind of so big, right? And so you just got to take it day by day and keep it at a level where you got to meet people where they are in this work. And I think this group is important to this work, whether it's from a food system way or Sustained Dane coming in the neighborhood and helping us put that mural on the Salvation Army, partnering in that way, So I think it's just a collaborative effort that's going to help any kind of insecurity in food system that we're dealing with.
Awesome. Can you, Will, just talk a little bit more too? I know you guys, are you still planning to be in the Madison Public Market, or now that you have your own space on East Wash, has that changed? Or just talk a little bit more, because I think what's cool about the work that you're doing is that it is kids who are doing the food. It is them that are giving each other the food. That means they'll take it from each other a lot quicker than they will with us walking over here, eat this carrot. So I just think the approach that you're taking is so it's just on the money. It's there in the heart. It's like you said, the hook is the key, and you're there with them. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it's we walking with the kids, so that's what's so great about our thing, because kids give us credibility, right? I'm only cool because some kid has said, "Hey, Will G is cool," and so I know their word is a lot of weight, and so just being here and them able to see the tomatoes that they cut up, the peppers they cut up, and they put it into the salsa, and they make the salsa pizza sauce. They do everything from start to finish, and it's in the store too. So that's an amazing transformation in itself. Right now, we were definitely planning to be in the public market. We went through the Market Ready program. We just didn't get chosen as an organization, but I felt like, ooh, that was sent our way because we got this beautiful space that I'm sitting in right now that the kids are able to produce pizza and salsa in, and we're going to be able to open a restaurant where you will see the kids display their skills around food and things like that. So it's just a joy. We get to experiment with a lot of different foods. We're making a vegetarian chili with our salsa. So they are just a special group, and I think in my space, we need to offer them that opportunity and that stage to display their skills and talents. So for right now, I don't think we're going to be in the public market.
Okay.
Anything can change, but I am really heavily into development on the east side and the neighborhood. So I'm really concentrating on that to really have our residents and voice matter in the upcoming development that may lie in the horizon. So,
You've been sounding that alarm for some time, so thank you for that. I'll just add on the rooted side, we have been doing education with youth and with families for a long time. But one of the cool things that came out of the pandemic, we already had been doing a little bit of youth employment, but it really came to the forefront and became an important part of the work that we do during the pandemic, because the young people that we were close to that were connected to Bedrock, they're in their homes, they wanted to get out of the house, they wanted to see one another. And so through some of the partnerships that we have, we were able to collaborate with Briar Patch and Commonwealth and with the city to get funding to employ youth who then were able to work during the pandemic here at Bedrock, and now will continue to work. If you've been by Bedrock lately, you might not see Bedrock because we're having a school built around us, the new Southside Elementary School, which we're excited will welcome hundreds of new families to this space. But in the meantime, we have to deal with construction, and that is not fun. So between COVID and construction, things have been a little wonky here at Bedrock, but my team has been fantastic at finding ways to get people out into the garden, and themselves out into the garden, and to get youth out into the garden. And collaborating with a lot of the people who we have here today and who will be stopping by Bedrock later today, or who stopped by Troy Farm. So we're continuing to do that work. I know that others of you are doing creative work. And so there's one other question that I want to get to. But before I do, I wanted just to create a little bit of space for you all to talk about, some of the creative work that you have coming up. Cooper, it was mentioned today that you guys might be doing a little bit of different farming over there at Urban Triage that we might want to talk about. Might not be food related, but it could be. It's growing. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the creative ways that we're, getting people outside, getting folks growing, and if it involves food, yes. If it doesn't, and it's just something that you want to mention, I just wanted to create that space.
Well, yeah, all of our growing and going into our second season at Farley Center, and also adding an extra, I believe, half an acre this year. Most of the things we grow are based out of the African diaspora, right? But this growing season, it took a lot of work from the new team that I just joined literally 2 days ago here. We're adding hemp to our grow plan. We just got our license. So definitely looking at that to be ready for when Wisconsin gets on board with with the wellness properties, whether it's tinctures, oils, paper, clothing, like all of the things, the possibilities are endless. But there is a lot of work and cultivation needed to go into growing it. So it's actually a really amazing plant that will bring the team and the families together, just because they're going in the ground in a week or two, actually. So we're getting started out there. And going to be rallying for plenty of volunteers, also to help build our hoop house, because that really is going to help us grow longer through the year and protect some of the things that we do want to grow longer as we not only create free CSA boxes, but whatever's left over from those boxes, there's our pickup on South Park Street. Like, folks in the community can just come and shop and get some really great things, which also sometimes we run into, like, we'll have things that folks don't know what to do with, but I'm always ready. Well, just chop it up and, and put it on this and add a little butter.
Can we shout out Johnny Winston Jr., who, I think he started like a thing where every week he'd stop by and pick up the food from your your boxes out there, and he'd cook something with it and share it on Facebook. And I thought that was just
Yep.
awesome. So good
And
good
that's
going, Johnny.
Yes, thank you, Johnny. And that's really what you have to do too, right? So that we don't have food waste, right? Even if it's coming directly to you, whether it's at no cost or you did pay full price for it, like, yeah, that's going to really be able to bridge the gap in that like food insecurity for sure. But peanuts also is another addition to, on our land that we're going to be growing. And again, just really expanding how we share this with everyone in our community, and hopefully have more and more land space. Again, I'm loving what I'm learning on day 2 here from all of you, and I right before this definitely Googled everything and everyone. So I got a lot of knowledge to, and no pun intended, but to grow from, like, let's put all this that I gathered here with all of you in the ground and let it grow, because yeah, everyone out here needs it. We all. And to piggyback too on what was said, it's not about your economic status, or it's just the state of being at this point with what's available to us.
Amen. Thanks, Cooper.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share some stuff that they're doing or that is coming up for you guys? So one of the other questions, which is, Cooper kind of alluded to, is there a connection between reducing food insecurity and reducing food waste? And what does that look like? And then also, how do the issues of sustainability overlap with the issues of food insecurity? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts might be on that.
Can I go back to the previous question?
Yes, please
about
do.
Some of the cool things we're doing.
Yes, please.
So REAP has a food truck, and we are currently chatting with a couple chefs that are interested in using the food truck, and we're trying to figure out how do we get the food truck out to the farms, and so we can actually have kind of a mobile kitchen on the farm, getting produce, getting products right off the farm, cooking it right on the food truck with some really awesome chefs from the area, and just kind of showing how to prep food right off the farm. And so that's in the very, very early stages. But some of the other things, do a lot of summer programming with youth, and partnering with the Juventud program at Centro Hispano, and having their Juventud program students out on the farm, learning about how food is grown, and then harvesting some of the food and bringing it back to Centro Hispano, and partnering with some chefs, bringing them in and cooking alongside the kids there. So that's coming up in summer. We do a harvest dinner every the last couple of years at Yoela Farms with Dan Cornelius, and we're expanding that to a harvest weekend now and doing more workshops to show some regenerative indigenous farming techniques, and bringing people out onto that farm. So that's something coming up too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know Urban Triage kind of raised the bar for the Harvest Festival last year. Cooper, were you at that festival?
I was. I actually emceed it. It was, and 2 days later, I got hired.
Yeah, that probably had something to do with it, because
Right.
I have to say, I know from my vantage point over here at Rooted, I was like, they just set the bar so high on what a harvest festival should and could look like, because that was pretty fun. That looked good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, you are all invited, formally invited to Harvest Festival. You can check out the dates on our website and all. I also, Will Green, I'm going to reach out soon to you as well, because I want to get your kids. That's not where your kids up to. And also, I want to know what time is lunch. Like, what time are those pizzas ready? Okay, because they sound, and now chili. I need to know all of that. So
we'll be here all day. Y'all can come get some of that good old sauce and pizza.
Okay, yeah, and I live right in the Eakin Park neighborhood. I'm literally right behind you all.
Okay, yeah, come on over. We over here.
I'll be there.
So, and now Reap is doing a whole weekend of Harvest Festival, so we'll have to see how we can get in on that action too. That's awesome. Tess, did you want to add anything to that, or should we go to the next question?
I'm happy to. I mean, yeah, our farmers are in the midst of planting already, which is always exciting, and CSA season is in full swing. Kind of on the connecting people eating on the farm, we have our annual Bike the Barns every year in September. That'll be in the Mount Horeb Cross Plains area this year. One of the stops is the Farley Center. And it's just a really great experience for people to come out, go to 3 or 4 different farms, food, music, farm activities, farm adjacent activities, and just spend the day connecting with local agriculture and local food systems as a fundraiser for our Partner Shares program. So it's a really great opportunity for folks to kind of connect on a deeper level in like a very long one day. Super fun. Lots of biking. There is a bus option for people who don't want to bike like 40 miles, which I personally don't. But just a nice way to get folks out on the farm and enjoying local food on the farm.
Awesome. I would be remiss if I did not tell all of you that Thursday, Kip is cooking here at Badger Rock. He's doing Kip's pop-up kitchen. Sweets by Sweets will have her cakes here. She won't be here herself, but Kip will hopefully be helping to serve those cakes. And we also have an artist. If anybody likes houseplants, this gentleman is known as the artist. He's a local artist whose art is being featured at the Overture Center, and he is selling his houseplants, which we have housed here at Badger Rock, because he was struggling with housing, and so come by and buy a plant and get some food from Kip. And at the end of March is when the inside of our space will be closed because our neighborhood center will be under construction. And so this will kind of be the last chance that you have to kind of come inside the neighborhood center proper space before we're done until fall. But then fall will come and we'll be open, and it's going to be hopefully shiny and new and awesome. But in the meantime, we'll be partnering with everybody here to do other things in the community. So that's Thursday at from 5 to 9 here at Badger Rock. So we're going to start wrapping up. So if anybody has any final thoughts or things that you wanted to make sure that we mentioned before we end our time, of course, give to the Big Share. All of these groups here are doing good work. That's Rooted, ROOTED, in case you didn't know how that was spelled. You can go to the Big Share and look up Rooted. But also the rest of the groups that are here. So if you guys want to put a plug in quick for your work and any final thoughts, please do.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for, especially again, it was my desire and my dream to come to this position, but also to come here and have this open expanse, right? And see that it's not just me, right? Like everyone has this love, passion, and this understanding about the realities, right, around agriculture for our people and everything. So I want to say that. Absolutely. And yeah, Urban Triage, we're definitely a part of Big Share. We definitely need and would love and appreciate the support, monetary support. So Urban Triage, for the people, by the people. So definitely check us out. Thank you.
Thanks, Scoop. Anybody? Will, you want to go next?
I think we all are doing important work. I think we all need to keep a lens on it. And, I do this from the heart. I put my heart and soul into the kids and who they are as people. I think first and foremost, we have to build true trust and relationships to make this stuff work. And, mentoring positives. We've been out here in the Darbo neighborhood since 2004, so 19 years, going on 20 next year. So definitely part of the Big Share, and honored to be on this panel. And I really just wanted Claire to get after that sustainability overlap with the issues of food insecurity, but maybe that's another.
She can have some more extra minutes to do that. I think we got a few minutes just for that.
Well, it's so good to see you. And I want us all to get together again in person. This is such an amazing group. And I think the connections here is what's really striking, both what's working really well, and also there's probably a whole nother panel about the challenges. I think part of what Phil said about, some of that infrastructure, which gets to some of the questions about, the food waste, right? It's, the stuff that's left in the fields, or like, Cooper said, how do you take it's not taken in the first round, continue to either process it into food like Will's team is doing, or get it to other people. Just the system that exists here and these linkages, because we obviously have so much opportunity and we care so much. And this is one of the foundational things that we need to focus on for our community. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I'll say there to wrap it up. Sustain Dane is doing other work in sustainability issues. We're doing energy efficiency and affordable housing work, which is really exciting. And could talk a whole bunch about that too, different workshops on tons of different areas. So yeah, keep finding those overlaps. There's a place for everyone in this work.
Thank you. Phil or Tess? Phil?
Yeah, I like what everybody is saying here about getting together again, because I think it's super important that these organizations who are doing food systems work, whether even tangentially, comes together and just chat and just talk about how to transform the food system. REAP been at it for 25 years, and we love your support and donations. And it's been a real honor to be at REAP and meet everybody. And I am looking forward to meeting more people and keep working at this and trying to really create and build this just equitable food system in this area. So like I said, we need to get together again. A lot of really great excitements from REAP, announcements coming. We're moving up to Garver Feed Mill. It's going to be a great event space as well. So follow us. A lot of the exciting announcements coming.
Thanks, Phil. Tess?
Yeah, I can wrap up essentially just echoing, everyone's gratitude for not only this panel and connecting with people, but also, for Community Shares of Wisconsin and putting on the Big Share as a whole. It's always such a great day. I've been at FairShare a little over 2 years, and one of my very first days was the Big Share, which was quite an experience coming in. But it's such a wonderful way to see how supportive and integrated this community is in this work of, we're all coming together on this day to lift each other up and have really meaningful conversations. And so, FairShare is always just really appreciative of CSW and all of you to kind of learn from each other. We are this year for the Big Share, we're raising money to support the Partner Shares program because we've had unprecedented demand for our program. So would love the support to help connect farmers and eaters through CSA. But just, have really enjoyed spending this last hour with you all.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. And I too look forward to having more of a conversation with everyone here, a couple people that I think might be missing. I've long had this dream of getting us together to talk, because I do think that something we alluded to a lot earlier in the conversation was the trauma and the impact that trauma and agriculture has had on some of the folks in our community. And if we don't talk about that, it's going to be really hard to get people to buy into this work. And so we really have to talk about that because there are other people who might say, what are you talking about? We don't want to go get in the gardens. We've done that. We've been there. We don't do that anymore. That's the thought. And I don't want to say that's not a valid feeling or a way to feel. I just know that there are other people who feel differently and can see a healing in that. And so I want to hope that we can get people there in their own way. But I think before any of us can even get into that, we have to have some real talk about what that means for everybody personally, and what our roles are in that reality. So one day it's coming. We will have that conversation. And I hope that Coop and your folks over there at Urban Triage will be there with us, and will as well, as the rest of you that are doing this work. So thank you, Community Shares, for the big share and for this opportunity to raise funds for our organization. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to the rest of the day. You can join me and the Badger Rock team in the garden soon. We'll be out there at 3 o'clock, and I'm sure the rest of you have exciting days planned. And we'll end it with Community Shares at Cafe Coda.